Okay, so I know that I say that I'm often excited to kick off a SheBoss interview, but this one holds a very special place in my heart for a variety of reasons. And anybody who tunes into this podcast knows exactly why, because we've got Jennifer Linton here joining us, who is the Executive Director of the Women's Economic Development Council Foundation. So I'm so glad that you're here. And she also happens to be one of my most favorite people in the world. And she's absolutely gorgeous. So thank you so much for being here. I just love you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I know. I'm so glad that you're here. This is way overdue too. Because when I think of what this show really stands for and what we try to use Flourish as a vehicle to help promote other women in business, like if there's a handful of women that come to mind, like you just sit right there at the top. And you've always been that way, which I just love so much. So I'm so glad that you are here joining us today. So cheers. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
And thank you. We're finally going to drink our wine. It's been sitting here tempting us for the last couple of minutes. So glad that you're here. So I know all about you and your background, but one of the many things that you have been able to be involved in your career is being such an advocate for women in so many ways. And we're going to talk about the Women's Economic Development Council and its foundation that Jennifer runs. It's such an amazing organization. I've been involved with it for a couple of years now as a mentor too, which is so fun. Mm-hmm. And it's just this pivotal organization that is helping to create generational impacts within our community, which are just amazing. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. And we're also going to talk about ways where you can recognize a fellow woman in your life who you think might deserve that recognition of being an honoree. And we'll talk about what that means in just a minute. But first, let's dive into you and learn a little bit about you. You're one of the few people here that actually can call Huntsville home, yes, too, which you don't often find. So let's just kind of start at the beginning and give us a little bit of background on you and kind of what your path led you to, and kind of we'll work from there.
Sure. Yes, Huntsville native, born in Huntsville Hospital, graduated from Huntsville High. It's always fun to see people around, like Danielle, one of your employees.
I know you guys went to high school together.
We went to high school together,
funny.
And I can walk to the end of my street and see my best friend from high school. A few houses down. And so
that's awesome.
It's really nice to be from here. And I moved away for over a decade. So I had that opportunity to travel and learn and broaden my horizons, but I never thought I'd be back here, but here I am.
Right. I love to hear those stories of people who are from Huntsville, mm-hmm, and then they go do their thing and they eventually come back. Yes. And that you hear those stories pretty often, which I think is just a beautiful thing. But where did you go on your journeys when you left?
After college, which I went to school in Mississippi. After that, I went to Charleston, South Carolina, lived on the beach on Folly for a while. And then from there, I went to Asheville, North Carolina. So beach to mountains.
What a beautiful city.
Yes.
I could totally see you in Asheville too. Like that's your vibe. That is totally your vibe.
It was great.
It's a great city.
And then we took a little side route to Greensboro, North Carolina before we headed off to the desert and Phoenix, Arizona. And after that, we decided that, we'd run out of money and our savings. And it was time to come back to Huntsville, try to get back on our feet. And we didn't leave.
Yeah.
So
what was it that kept you here when you got back? Or what drew you back, actually, out of curiosity?
My mom was very great at finding a place that we could afford for rent and to get back on our feet. And it kept us here. We got good jobs. We ended up buying a house, and that was around the time that, the breweries came about, all the things that I had dreamed about. I don't know about the breweries dreaming about, but, as a high school student and kind of, I'm getting out of Huntsville. I'm never coming back. There's no water around here. There's no ocean, the fun things. And, coming back, and as Huntsville kind of really started to kick off with, their downtown was no longer law offices and bail bondsmen's, there was just things that became so great in making Huntsville what it is now that it seemed silly to go somewhere else when this one was such a good fit.
What year was it when you guys moved back here?
We moved back in December of 2010.
Okay.
So right ahead of the April 27th tornadoes.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Was, a reminder of my younger years.
I bet. Were you? I mean, obviously, you lived through lots of crazy things.
The November 15th ones, where they, took out Airport Road, and So I was well aware of what to expect with the weather in Huntsville.
Yeah, a lot of people, and most of our listeners are here in North Alabama, but some of them are not. And you know, Huntsville is in the Tennessee Valley, which is known for significant severe weather. I mean, where you've got the cold that meets the warm, and that just results in crazy severe storms. And that April 27th date, I think, and you know, statistics are a little fuzzy depending on your source, but I remember a stat where it was, I think, over 150 tornadoes touched down in the state within a 24-hour period.
Right.
And that was the first time for me personally. I'm sure you guys were in the same boat where we lost power for 5 days completely. And there's something odd about living in the complete dark, especially when you're at the foot of a mountain or on top of a mountain or, you know, I mean, it's just, that was a scary time.
It was.
There was elements of it that I was like, this is kind of cool. And then there were moments where it freaked me out, you know. How was that for you guys?
So we had just gotten to town, so we were in a little rental over, you know, off Jordan Lane. And so we didn't really know anyone around us. So it gave us the opportunity to get outside and meet our neighbors and borrow things from them since we didn't have a whole lot. And that's what I love, is being able to walk outside. We looked at the stars. One of the neighbors we met had a huge telescope. He was
cool.
NASA, you know, employee. And so we had those times where you can just appreciate where we are, what we live in, as opposed to being distracted with all the technology and the TV and the jobs.
Yes,
So
it was really nice to have that pause for a second. You know, I remember, so interesting story, the day that on April 27th was the day that I got my gallbladder removed. And so I woke up in Huntsville Hospital and all of the nurses were freaking out because, and the hospital was on a generator, running on a generator. And you just heard these crazy stories of schools, you know, being devastated or, you know, potentially at risk and whatnot. And I'm just high on life coming out of anesthesia, right? So I go home and I'm like, this is great, you know, and my husband at the time was like, you need to be up and at 'em because I cannot handle these kids, you know. And all the kids in the neighborhood were just moving around from house to house to house, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't, you know. But it was a really, really interesting time. And it was scary, but it was nice. And it was a good pause. Yet, you know, it was just all sorts of emotions. But the city has, and I think they got hit early on prior to April, but they don't mess around when it comes to their weather. They do not mess around.
Definitely not.
Yeah, and if anybody who's listened to one of our former episodes with Grace Anello, who I know you know her, I mean, if she is the absolute best, and just so her energy is just insane. I mean, and she's so smart, and I know she just loves to geek out over stuff like that, you know. And hearing it from her perspective is just, I don't know, it's just fascinating, you know, but it's a crazy town in that regard. It really is. It really is. So talk to us a little bit about your kind of career path and what you wanted to do when you were younger and what you studied and kind of what that journey looked like a little bit.
So I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. But, you know, I went to college because and I was the first female in my family to graduate from college. So, you know, I felt that was the path that my mom wanted me to go on. It was very important for me to do that. I knew that there was no other option, and not in a bad way, just this was what I was meant to do. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. Yeah. And so I, you know, through college, I was in school. I went for education. I went for communications. I was going to be a broadcaster. And neither of those things worked out. I loved theater. I had been involved with theater in high school and then in college, and English. So I ended up with an English degree and a minor in public relations and theater. So
that's quite a combination.
Yeah, because I kind of just pulled all the classes that I had together, and it was going to be a double major, theater and English, but I did not want to stay one semester for a theater history class. Yeah. So minor it was. But so I left there, and when I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, I didn't really know what I was going to do with a degree in English, but not an education degree. Mm-hmm. And so I started working for a grocery store, Earth Fare, which was in Charleston, home office in Asheville. So I worked for them there, and then when I moved to Asheville, I worked for the home office and kind of helped them open up stores. I was the front end manager at the Greensboro location. So I worked in a grocery store, a health food grocery store, for about 8 years. In that time, I was also I got licensed as a massage therapist. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was just trying all the things. So from there, we ended up, when we moved to Phoenix, I was retired which is part of why we were out of savings. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how long we were staying. So when I commit to something, I'm in. I worked for the grocery store for 8 years. Later on, when I worked for a nonprofit here in Huntsville, I worked there for 8 years. So I just didn't feel like I could step into a job just yet until I knew we were going to stay there. Yeah. So I helped walk dogs at a kill rescue and played bingo.
Enjoyed the life. Yeah,
I love bingo. So I just enjoyed the life until we figured out that we were not staying, and that's when we came here. So, and from moving to Huntsville, I worked for a home builder for a short period of time, and then from there I stepped into my role at Heels. That's kind of when I really fully stepped into the nonprofit world, further than some summer jobs and volunteering. And I worked for Heels for 8 years, as I shared.
And that's an amazing organization. Heels, talk a little bit about what they do and the services that they provide.
It stands for Health Establishments at Local Schools, and they have medical, dental, and optometry clinics at local Title I schools, both in Huntsville and Madison County. And I think past my time, I think they're moving into the Madison City area.
That's great.
And their big fundraiser was Stars Dancing for Heels.
So much fun.
Yes.
So much fun.
Yes.
I think that's one of the most looked sought after events.
It's very lively.
Throughout the year. People
very entertaining.
love it. Where, I think there's local celebrities, if you will, kind of team up with professional dancers, very similar to Dancing with the Stars. But and it is a full-on production,
Absolutely.
which I love so much. I love it. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so I got to put that, I learned from my my executive director, Connie Carnes, now Connie Watkins. She brought me into Heels, and then I learned so much from her for the time that she was there, and then she retired, and I continued on. There were new directors, but I ran the Stars Dancing for Heels event for a good number of years and learned a whole lot before I decided it was time for me to move on. And
I think nonprofit is so rich with opportunity from a growing and development perspective.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's you have to do all the things on a very limited budget, and wear so many different hats that it's just, I don't know, you become just so skilled and well-rounded, I think, in a very short period of time, and you're doing it for a great cause, which just makes it that much better. It makes it easy to, I think, to work really hard when you know that you're helping kids who otherwise wouldn't receive these types of services. But you totally killed it too when you were with Heels. I mean, it was such an amazing organization, and it was just awesome. But that was a big highlight of your career.
Absolutely. Well, and through the event, I was able to be introduced with a lot of amazing people in the community, like Kim Lewis and Ginger Harper, who would serve on, danced, but also served on the board of Heels, along with many others. And so I think it was a great base for me to move on and into another position in the nonprofit world. Yeah. And, my degree in English, PR and theater is fantastic for nonprofits.
It absolutely is.
And putting on a major event, and so it worked out.
Yeah. I have a question to ask you a little bit off, on the spot, but looking back at some of the dancers that you had a chance to interact with, not the professional ones, but the non-professional ones, who surprised you the most of being maybe not the most skilled, but who just surprised you the most with their performance? Because these are everyday people who don't typically dance, right? And then they get up there, and it blows your mind what some of these, what they can do. So does anybody stand out?
I'm having to go way back. That's been five plus years ago.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I don't know that I can zero in on one person, but I think watching them do something so scary,
Yeah.
because they have a heart for the mission and they want to raise as much money as they can, for that mission, that, they could put in the work, they could make a fool, or not fool, depending on who it was. And it was all in fun and appreciation. I always loved the dances that were not typical ballroom.
Yeah.
Those were some of my favorites, and I can't remember names right now, but there were some really fun ones that kind of, went off into a more theatrical realm, and those are the ones I really appreciated. I really liked.
I've had a chance to go to 2 events, and I was blown away at the creativity behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so much fun, and it's such a great event to get to. So
yeah, the professional dancers in this community are amazing.
Who knew?
They're brilliant.
I know, like who knew? It's just awesome. So then you joined WEDC Foundation.
So yes, so I was honored to be asked to interview. I didn't even know what the WEDC Foundation was. I hadn't heard of it before, even though they've been around since 1998. Wow. So I, kind of stepped in and learned as I was interviewing for it. But it seemed like such a logical fit for me. I could have easily been one of the scholars that we support and empower through the organization. Being having a single mom and being the first female in our family to graduate college, always wanting and needing that mentoring that, I always gravitated towards older women that had some knowledge and experience, even though it was never an official mentoring relationship. I kind of gleaned that from the women that I encountered from high school, college, and on. Yeah. So knowing that the importance of that it would be for my life, it seems it's such a great fit for me,
right?
Because I'm able to help all of our scholars, these women, get those tools that I would have greatly appreciated.
Right. And so the foundation is the nonprofit arm of the Women's Economic Development Council.
Yes, we are 2 separate organizations. So they are a membership organization, but they founded us back in '98 to support and empower women scholars, collegiate women here in North Alabama. So kind of with the idea that they needed that hand up to be able to become financially independent, to break potentially a cycle of poverty, and to also be that first female in their family so that their children and the generations to come, they have that path already put forward for them. And maybe they'll be WEDC members one day as they become pivotal members of our community.
Yeah. What would and we've had Alka on as well with the Foundation, who is doing amazing things with that organization too. Yes. Talk to us a little bit about what are some of the common challenges that you see with some of the stories of the scholars that come in, because I think it's those unique individual stories that hearing from some of the scholars at Women Honoring Women, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it's just mind-blowing how a lot of people, not just women, are potentially one paycheck away from losing their home or whatever it may be. So talk to us just a little bit about that.
Sure. We have a very diverse group of women in our program. They're 19 years of age and older. We had Pamela, who spoke 2 years ago at Women Honoring Women. She was 54 when she graduated with her degree with us. And so, in her story, she had a whole life, a whole family ahead of going to school for her degree in criminal justice. She had served as a prison guard because she watched her youngest brother go into prison, and she wanted to make sure, she understood on the other side what he, was having to deal with. And that was her path to a degree in criminal justice. Yeah. We have women that have, endured loss of parents and whether they were foster kids and adopted, or they had a grandparent that took them in and tried to navigate this world and bring them up as best as they could. And so some of our scholars are those first generation students that they left a toxic environment at home and moved to Huntsville, or started here at Huntsville and went to school and did it all on their own. They by the bootstraps kind of thing, and said, I've got to make a change for myself. And so they did it, and we are just there to help them along.
Which is amazing. I mean, you guys provide so many resources for them, and so much mentorship and guidance. And I agree with you about, having someone in your life that can just help kind of guide you. You know what I'm saying? I would be curious, kind of going back to your story, or what you mentioned about your mom, just being a single mom, and you kind of always gravitating towards an older woman. What was it about the relationship that you had with your mom that you think really kind of planted that seed for you?
I mean, she let me know that I didn't have to rely on anybody else but myself.
Yeah.
We have to move a couch. We can do that. Yeah. You can grab another girlfriend and say, all right, I got to move this couch. And we don't need a guy to take care of that. We don't need to rely on anybody else to be able to do those hard things.
Yeah.
So, I took her guidance and watched her struggle and make the hard choices so that I had the opportunities that, she wanted me to have.
Yeah.
So, and she, never, I'm sure she said no many times.
You don't remember any of that though, right?
But she always did her best to give me the opportunities that I needed.
Yeah. And I love how that has come full circle for you now, because I think there, not that it's the direct mission of the foundation by any means, but it's other women helping other women, right? And women being there for each other, and just creating a safe environment where they know that they can be supported regardless of what happens,
Exactly.
And so the Women Honoring Women event is a fundraiser that you guys do every year.
Yes.
And that's a phenomenal organization, or phenomenal opportunity, where many just beautiful, amazing women are highlighted throughout the course of the year. They're chosen, and they're actual, honorees that get honored throughout the course of the year, and they help fundraise a little bit for the foundation too, and where the event fundraises. And talk to us a little bit about what that process looks like.
Sure. So we are asking our community, it's Women Honoring Women, it doesn't have to be a woman who nominates, but we are asking members of the community, men and women alike, to put forward a remarkable woman that has potentially overcome things. I mean, I feel like all women have overcome things, but are making a difference in our community, or making strides in our community to make it better, that possibly have mentored or serve as some kind of role model for others. But we want to highlight them because it's important to recognize the accomplishments of women here, not only because we should do that anyway, but our scholars get to come to the event. And so it shows them that it doesn't matter where you start. You can be the woman on that stage. You can, achieve the things, the dreams that you have. So nominations are open now through March 8th, which is International Women's Day. And we need those because that's the pool that we, not myself, a secret committee chooses from to select the honorees for this year and for every year. And then they speak on stage after we announce them in April. So, and then the event is September 18th. So kind of they get time to see what the organization does, to get to know each other, and then speak and share their words of wisdom on stage in September.
Which are so impactful. I had it worked out so well where my mom happened to have been in town. I don't know if you remember that. My mom was there. And so she had a chance to come to the event, and she was blown away at not only the event, because it's absolutely gorgeous, and you guys do such an amazing job at the event. You can tell that it's put on by women because every little detail is like perfection. But to sit back and to enjoy yourself, but listen to these stories of just encouragement and inspiration. And not everybody's had a super difficult road, but that doesn't mean that they haven't faced challenges that they've overcome. And it's, truly, and I'm not just saying this to butter you up by any means, but that very similar mission is kind of why we wanted to start this podcast, right? Was to really talk about that and allow for an opportunity for those discussions to be heard beyond just maybe what you learn about somebody through social media or online or something like that, So I love the up close and personal opportunity you get to really hear from them, personally. And before we got started, Jennifer was telling me that we realized that there's about 6 or 7 of our current SheBoss interviewees who were also women honoring women honorees, which is pretty awesome. So Veronica was the other one. Maybe
not yet.
It hasn't aired yet, but yes. Oh, that's
nominate.
Oh, I'm definitely nominating Veronica. Are you kidding me? Veronica Cram, she's amazing. But it's just such a great event. But it's just phenomenal. So March 8th, the nomination window closes.
Yes.
So if you know a woman in our community who is doing amazing things, and has given back to our community, has volunteered her time, whatever the case may be, what makes a good honoree?
Well, she doesn't necessarily have to be that immediate woman, the one that's always in the news or, being recognized in other places. She may be the one who's behind the scenes that doesn't get the recognition that she truly deserves. So we try to have a balance of that. A great honoree, there's so many women. I don't know that I can say there's so many amazing women in this community that we, the event, this is the 24th year of this event. 24 years. Yes. So, and I feel like it can go on and on because of all of the amazing women, the women on, they can't see this, but the women on the wall, the SheBoss women so far, and the rest of them that you were going to interview, there's so many to choose from that it can be hard. Yeah. It can be hard, but we have to have the nominations in order to select.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about the scholars and the mentoring program that you offer as well, because that's been, that's just my first year doing it, but it's been a really, really cool experience. And so scholars get matched with mentors, right, throughout the course of the year. And, full transparency, I didn't really know what to expect going into that program, but there's opportunities for engagement throughout the year.
Right.
Which, from everything from, financial workshops, which I know is coming up, to, learning about table manners and etiquette class, which I totally failed, by the way. And we were all talking today during our luncheon about etiquette, because some of us have been through etiquette class and some of us are not doing very well at it. But it made me think about that. But there's just little things like that you just may not think about that, some are just not exposed to those types of things, right? And so talk to us a little bit about that program and really what a mentee can kind of expect out of that, and also who makes a good mentee, I think, there too. Sure.
So our scholars are, the application is also open, and that's through the end of March, so March 31st that closes. They 19 years of age or older. They have to attend a SACS accredited university, which is any of the universities here in Huntsville that you think of. It just means it's locally based. So we don't go as far as UNA, and we don't go as south as Wallace State, but UAH, Athens, A&M, Oakwood, Drake State. Yeah. I know I'm missing Calhoun, one or two. Calhoun. Yes. So in fact, Calhoun even has scholarships for some of our scholars if they're taking full-time hours.
Oh,
it's
that's
amazing.
Great.
Amazing. So they have to take at least 5 credit hours a semester and have a 2.5 GPA or greater. And there's some more to that, but those are kind of the basics, and they are all at 2.5 times the federal poverty level or below. So that for 2025 is about, for a household of one, that's about $37,000 a year.
Wow.
So the benefits that they receive, like you mentioned, is a mentor, one-on-one. We usually match based on field of study. That's not always the case. and they hopefully are together throughout the time that the scholar is in the program. So that's an average of about 1.5 years, 2 years, depending on when she graduates.
Yeah.
They are working on their associate's or bachelor's degree. So if they're going for an associate's, they can roll into the bachelor's and stay with us.
Okay.
It's a possibility. Beyond the mentoring, which you all meet once a month face to face, along with the workshop attendance. So we have 4 workshops a year: finance, resume and interview skills, which we do mock interviews, which
So
everybody
helpful.
needs. Everybody needs practice
Yes,
for
absolutely.
that. So it's really helpful. The business and dining etiquette, that's the funnest one because
It's a lot of fun.
we're all learning and forgetting and remembering. I'm like, oh yeah, that's where the
So
fork goes.
embarrassing. So I was like, that's why all those forks are there. Yeah.
But it's fun.
It is fun.
Learning that when you put your name tag on, when you go to a networking event, that it goes on the right side.
Okay.
Because you're
Most people
presenting, even though so many people put it on the left, but it goes on the right because you're presenting so you're presenting the shoulder with your name tag on it.
Who knew?
I know, they're just the little things. But the great thing about etiquette is that it's just respect for others.
Yeah.
It's not like you're ever doing things wrong. How dare you? It's just showing respect for others.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very fun workshop. And then the other workshop we do is self-care. And that changes every year.
Yeah.
We all need to be reminded.
Yes.
I think we did yoga,
We did yoga.
meditation, and journaling this past semester. So workshops are great. Mentors and scholars come together. And then in addition to that, they get a scholarship. So $2,000 every fall and spring semester paid directly to them.
That is awesome.
And they get academic bonuses, participation bonuses. They get to come to Women Honoring Women and other social networking events, graduation celebrations. When they graduate, they get a strand of pearls to signify all of the hard work and determination that they've achieved and the degree that they
love that.
can now put them forward in the world. So
yeah, thinking back to when you and I were graduating college, right? What that looked like. And I know we've got some of our team who are not too far off from that, but that's a scary time, when you're sort of going into the world as, on your own. And if you don't have and I know a lot of them do, but if you don't have that support system already kind of baked in, and solidified, the WEDC Foundation sort of acts as that, I think, and really opens up opportunities to not only learn about yourself, but create these lifelong connections. And and it's not about, it is about who you know, but just opening doors and challenging you in the right ways, and just seeing things from a different perspective, which sometimes you just don't get a chance to get, know. So it's been awesome.
Knowing you're not alone.
That's true. And that's right.
That you're not isolated.
That's true. And life can feel really, really lonely at times, where you feel like you're on an island a little bit, So I think having people in your corner, not only from a mentoring perspective, but the scholars with the other scholars, they immediately kind of create this camaraderie and community, which is just awesome. So how can people get involved and support the foundation? Because this is something where, $2,000 a semester is huge. And, if you've ever been to one of these events, as I mentioned earlier, you can hear these stories, how a lot of these women, as are a lot of people just in general, but unfortunately there's hard times, right? And you may be one step away from something. And I know, Alka has shared that story about the parking ticket, and how, it's just one parking ticket that you couldn't afford to pay, and just the repercussions and implications of that rippling effect, and what kind of impact that can have. So not to say that it's little and it's not undermining its impact, but a little bit goes a long way.
Absolutely.
So how can people support the foundation? What are different ways?
Of course, financially.
Write a fat check is what you can do.
Donations.
Yes.
We have a monthly donor program, so if small amounts are the right fit, then you can become one of our pearls, our monthly donors, and share your pearl of wisdom along with some money every month. We have endowment, a named endowment that goes directly into the scholarship and academic bonuses. That helps grow that so that that's a lasting kind of a legacy giving. Women Honoring Women, sponsorships, attendance to that event on September 18th.
That event is always such a fantastic event.
Really is.
It's a great event. So, I mean, there's a lot of things in this town that one could choose to sponsor, but that is one that is very, very targeted and rich.
Right.
And when I say rich, I just mean rich in the quality of the content. You know, there's a lot of events here that you just kind of go to, show your face, and you're out, right?
Right.
That is not one of them. I mean, it's one that you leave feeling inspired in so many ways. And hearing the stories, you know, of the scholars, I mean, it brings tears to your eyes. I mean, almost every single time. And it's awesome. It's so awesome to hear that. Yeah.
It's
amazing.
It's a great place to be in September.
Yeah.
Beyond the financial components, we are always looking for mentors, especially, you know, since we do match on field of study, a variety of mentors with different experiences. You know, this past year I was on the search for a mentor who had sports management experience, you know, for a scholar that was coming in. And that was a hunt to find somebody. So mentoring, they can go on the website and just submit on the mentoring page their interest. And then I do a little quick 45-minute Zoom chat, learn about them, share about the organization. You know, board members, of course, nonprofit, we have a board. So board service, and then facilitators for our workshops. We don't want to give the same information every time. We want to change it up, make it different. Even though our scholars, as they change as they graduate, we have 25 scholars start every fall semester, and then they graduate through fall and spring, a few of them, and so then we bring it back up to 25 based on whatever that number is. So like this year we'll have about 10 spots to bring it back to 25.
That's great.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So support the foundation.
Yes,
There's no doubt
absolutely.
about it. It's a great organization. So any big plans for the 25th anniversary?
Of the event for next year?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I'm still working on this year.
Yeah. September 18th?
September 18th.
Okay. Mark your calendars. Yeah. It's going to be a good one.
Speaking of, y'all helped us put together our 20th Women Honoring Women
We did.
event. And so that was fantastic.
That was a lot of fun.
Kicked us off,
That was a lot of fun.
For a great time. And so
Beautiful logo. I know. I'm like, how is that fun? I can't believe that was 20 years. Time flies when you're having fun, right? It just goes by. Wow, that's insane. Well, it's such an amazing organization, but it wouldn't happen without you kind of and your team being behind the scenes and being instrumental to all of that, and it's just bringing light to such a great cause.
Thank you. I since this organization has been around for so long, it is definitely on the shoulders of so many women in this community that it exists, that it does what it does. So, I am honored to be able to run it and, be there for the last 5 years. But there are so many women that have had their hands in the impact of this foundation that, it is definitely a community organization.
Yeah, and I love it too because I would imagine, without you outright saying it, that they hands down do it for the right reasons. It is nothing beyond that than to create an open door and a pathway for women who may not have those opportunities, which is just awesome. And when you hear those stories, you can truly see how that impact is just unfolding, and it's lifelong. There's no doubt about that.
It so often teaches our scholars, and not just our scholars, our mentors, our board even, that we don't have to compete with each other.
Yeah.
One of our scholar graduates years back, she said this is the first time in her life that she's ever been around a group of women and felt no negative intent. I mean, that's huge to change that mindset that we are not each other's competition.
No,
we should just collaborate. We should lift each other up.
Yeah, we need to be each other's cheerleaders, especially now. And not that we're going to get into it, but the changing climate, and even something as with DEI efforts going away, and we women, I think in general, whether it's in the workforce or not, need to be cheerleaders of each other and supporting each other in the best possible ways that we can. Otherwise, we will take step backs, and I think that's going to happen, unfortunately, which is devastating. But I think now more so than ever, we've all got to stand up and really ensure that we're not allowing that to happen.
Right.
Because change can happen at our level. There is no doubt about it,
Yes.
and it's definitely happening at your level with what you guys are doing. So kudos to you for that. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and chatting with us. I know the epitome of SheBoss, Jennifer Linton, is the best. I just adore you. So thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate it. See you guys later.